Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in this week. We have a great show planned for you. Later on, I'll have with me Dirk Decoy, who is the executive director of the OVAC, the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference, biggest conference in the country. We'll be talking all about the history of the OVAC, what's going on now, and his role there as the executive director here. He's taken over in the last year or so. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. And I want to start off talking politics because it is that time. It is 2020, and the filing period is open for candidates to file for office, particularly here in West Virginia. Only a little over a week to go for people to file for office, and then that window closes on January 25th. And some major announcements this week. Natalie Tennant, former Secretary of State, has announced that she will seek to regain that office of Secretary of State. She'll be running against incumbent Mac Warner, and this should be an interesting race. Natalie Tennant with a history of elected office here in West Virginia, but then lost a couple of elections there. A special election for governor, run for Senate, etc., and now out of office here for the last several years, and going to take a run at getting that Secretary of State seat back. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Another statewide race worth mentioning is Richard Ojeda announcing this week that he will run for United States Senate. He's going to seek the position currently held by Shelley Moore Capito, who will be seeking re-election. He'll have a primary race first because Paula Jo Swearengin, who ran against Senator Manchin a couple of years ago, will be seeking that seat as well. So there'll be a Democratic primary race. But interestingly, Richard Ojeda, for those that may forget, he came kind of to light when he ran for state senate, and he was beaten up very badly right before the Democratic primary. I mean, you look at the pictures of him, he was bloody all over, he was in the hospital, and he won election, and then his star kind of rose quickly, ran, for United States House against Carol Miller, and lost that election in 2018 for West Virginia's 3rd Congressional District, but flipped a bigger flip of votes than any other place in the country, really, even though he lost, and then gave up his state Senate seat to announce that he was running for United States President. Well, that campaign turned out to be short-lived because he realized very quickly that you just don't get, if you don't have that name recognition on the national level, you really just can't mount much of a campaign. So that campaign didn't last real long, but now he has announced that he will be seeking the U.S. Senate seat. So, this is a race that I think will be worth watching because Richard Ojeda has gotten a lot of attention in the last couple of years. Shelley Moore Capito, of course, the incumbent Senate, daughter of former Governor Archmore, a lot of name recognition, but out there will be very, very difficult for anyone to beat her. But Richard Ojeda is somebody that knows how to kind of get attention and drum up things a little bit. So that'll be fun to watch. And then here locally, Randy Swartz-Miller, who was on the show not too long ago here, officially filed to run for state senate in the 1st senatorial district here in the Northern Panhandle against incumbent Ryan Weld. And of course, Randy Swartz-Miller is a delegate now out of Hancock County, and this will be an interesting race as well because, of course, 2 years ago, the incumbent senator in the 1st Senate senatorial district here in West Virginia, Ryan Ferns, was beaten by challenger Bill Ehlenfeld. So we've got a similar situation here where you've got an incumbent Republican senator who's going to be facing a Democratic challenger. So that'll be one that will be worth watching as well. And then some local races also already getting some attention here in the past week or so. Looks like County Commissioner Tim McCormick will be challenged for his seat. He's going to run again, but he'll have opposition as Jim Cleese already filed to run against him on the Republican side. Glenn Elliott running for mayor again, but already a couple people filing saying they're going to run for mayor. So that'll be an interesting race to watch as well. Of course, all the mayor and all those city council seats are up, and a number of people filed for council as well. And then on the local board of education here in Ohio County, former Ohio County Schools teacher and athletic trainer Pete Chockless has filed to run for office. 2 seats are up. Sarah Kegler's seat's up. Zach Abraham's seat's up. I'm hearing word that those 2 may not run. We'll see for sure when the filing period closes, but Pete Chockless has thrown his hat into the ring for that one. And I've known Mr. Chockless a long time. Really enjoyed having him as a teacher and athletic trainer. And of course, he's been involved with the schools. He probably knows more about the history of William Park High School than perhaps anybody out there. Does a lot of videotaping over the years, photography, and records some of the history and things like that. So that'll be interesting to watch as well to see if anybody else throws their hat in the ring there. I suspect we'll hear a couple more names here in the next week or so. We'll continue to follow this, and then as the races shape up, we'll talk about maybe what the angles may be and what the chances may be for some of these candidates. Maybe we even get some of them on the show. Give you a quote here this week, and of course, Monday will be the day that we celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and so I thought this quote from him would be a good one to share this week. He said, "We must develop and maintain the capacity to forgive. He who is devoid of the power to forgive is devoid of the power to love. There is some good in the worst of us and some evil in the best of us. When we discover this, we are less prone to hate our enemies. I like that quote because that's not one that you hear a lot. There's a lot of famous quotes that you hear from Martin Luther King Jr. That's not one that you hear all the time, and I thought there's so much truth to that, that everybody in us has some good and some bad in us. And you really, if you look at what someone else does and says, you know, I've got bad in me too, and I'm going to forgive them because that's maybe the bad in them coming out or whatever it may be, life gets so much better. So I thought that was a great quote by him. And a legal tip here this week as well. I always like to give you a legal tip if I can. And this one is, what is a statute of limitations? Okay, a statute of limitations is the time in which you have to file a lawsuit or forever be barred from doing so. And different types of cases have different types of statute of limitations. People commonly think about, say, a personal injury in West Virginia, like a car wreck. Statute of limitations is 2 years for that. And because of that, people sometimes think, well, you have 2 years to file a lawsuit on anything. And that's not necessarily the case. Different types of causes of action can have different statute of limitations. Something can be 1 year. A contract can provide that you only have a year to do something, or it could be 10 years that you have to do something. There could be 4 years for things. There are different consumer type claims that can have different time periods. So very important, you know, if you have something happen, you think this may give rise to a legal claim, to talk to a lawyer and find out how long do you have to file a lawsuit for whatever the particular thing might be. And you may have various types of claims within what happened to you. You may have this type of claim that has 1 year, for example, an intentional tort. An intentional tort is when someone intentionally harms you. For example, if I were to walk up and punch you in the face, that would be an intentional tort. You might have 1 year to do that. Whereas if I would accidentally run over your foot or something when I'm pushing something and injure you in some way that way and it's an accident, you might have 2 years. There could be some things that could have an accidental component and an intentional component to it, and you might have different times, but you have to file them at the same time. So point being, it's important to talk to a lawyer and find out, hey, how long do I have to do this to make sure you don't miss any deadlines or the time in which you have to do it, or forever be barred from doing it. So that's just the tip here this week. We need to take a break. When I come back, I'll have with me Dirk Decoy, the Executive Director of the OVAC. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration. This is Gwen. How may I help you?
I'll tell you, I was getting ready to shave, and then the Mountaineer highlights came on, and I forgot all about the water. And then, boom, there's water coming through the ceiling. And I tell you what, I was going to shave, but now I'm swimming.
We'll send a crew immediately.
When disaster strikes the Wolfman, I call the restoration company that the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and you should too. Boom!
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
It's like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Dirk Decoy, who is the Executive Director of the OVAC, the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference, the local high school athletic conference, and it's biggest in the country, 51 schools, and good to have you here with us.
Thank you. Good to be here.
You know, this is a relatively new role for you, and it might be the busiest part-time job in America, perhaps.
Yeah, yes.
It's not your full-time job. You have one of those, but it's a lot of work. And so how long have you been at it now?
July 1st.
Yeah, so we're going on, what now, 6 months or so, and you know, took over for Tom Radizak, who was at it for a long time, and I guess you had an opportunity to kind of learn from him a little bit, though, before you took over.
I did. I followed Tom around for about a year and a half. Went to all the meetings, all the events, and Tom has been more than gracious in opening up his notebooks and his memories of what he's got and what it takes to run the conference. So he certainly has set me up to be successful with this.
You know, I mentioned OVAC. There's such a large conference of high schools, and you know, such a big geographic area that spans. I mean, that's got to be tough, just even to touch base with all the schools and get around to them and things like that.
It is tough. It is tough. We cover over 5,400 square miles. That's over 3.5 million acres.
Wow.
Okay. If you were to draw an X on the OVAC coverage, that X would be 140 miles long. It is big. But we do have mandatory meetings where everybody comes to one central location and we talk. We have meetings with the ADs about 4 times a year, and then we have meetings where the students come to the main central area and we talk as well. So, and obviously with today with email and texting and obviously the phone, it's not hard to get hold of somebody pretty quick.
What made you interested in getting into this job? I mean, it's a big undertaking.
Sports.
Yeah.
Sports. I've always been a type of interest in all different kind of sports. Everything, you know, I've coached football, varsity baseball, little league baseball, and even girls basketball, which I knew nothing about, but I coached that as well. It's just sports. It's being out on the field. I was a football official for 30 years, and this opportunity came about, and I thought, okay, this is going to be good because it's right up my alley. Different sports, and then even the business side of sports too. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and seeing what I can do with this.
You mentioned, you know, all the different sports, and the OVAC has a lot of sports under its umbrella. Bowling, maybe perhaps being one of the more recent ones that people aren't even familiar with yet.
Yes.
Something new.
Yeah, bowling, it's our first year coming up. Next Saturday is our first bowling championship. It's out at St. Clair Lanes, and we've got 30 teams already signed up, entered into it, 17 boys teams, 13 girls teams, and we're going to give away 2 championship trophies, 2 high pin bowler trophies, and looking forward to it. So that's going to do nothing but grow. Well, that's a good sport. It's a good social sport for these kids to do something in the wintertime if they're not a wrestler or basketball.
It really is, and you know, one of the things about bowling, in addition to the social side of it, because you can't, there's time to, you know, to talk when it's not your turn and that type of thing, but also like tennis and golf and a couple of the other OVAC sports, it's something you can do your entire life. I mean, when I played football, when I was done. You know, go throw the ball around the yard, and I coached for a number of years, but you're kind of, in terms of playing, that was it for me. But these guys can keep on bowling, these girls can keep on bowling their whole life.
It's a life sport. That term they use nowadays is a life sport. Golfing, bowling, and they're on tennis, all life sports. And as far as football, yes, I played football as well, and obviously I didn't go up to the next level, but you can always officiate. And that's where we need help too, is officiating in all different sports. So once I was done playing football in high school, then I went and became a football official for 30 years. And it gets you back out on the field. There's nothing like that.
It's one thing you notice, you know, I think it's an issue nationwide, but especially here in the Valley. We have an older population here in the Ohio Valley, and a lot of these folks that are officiating have been doing it for a number of years. I mean, some of the ones I see out there, you know, they were out there on the field or on the court or wherever when I was a kid, and they're still out there, and they're going to be retiring, and it just doesn't seem that we have the younger folks, younger generation replacing them, and it's going to be a real issue, I think.
It is an issue across the board. It really is. And you talk about those officials, they were there back when you were in high school and still there. There's a reason, because it's enjoyable. It gets you back out on the court, back on the field. So there's a reason for the longevity of it. You just got to get that first initial go to the meeting, and within 1-2 years, then you'll be doing varsity football games, varsity basketball games, wrestling, whatever it might be. So there is a big need for it. We have a shortage for it, and we're trying to do everything with the OVAC that we can to help recruit officials.
One of the things that I hear asked about the OVAC a lot is there's no mandatory scheduling, so to speak. I mean, there are some requirements in order to win a championship. You had to have played so many teams, but it's really not, scheduling is not really done through the OVAC. Has there been any thought to changing that and looking at doing that, or do you think that'll ever happen? We
ask about that every year. We have our athletic directors meeting, and we have an agenda. And for the last 2 years that I've been here, it's been brought up about mandatory scheduling. So we take an impromptu vote. And 2 years ago, I think it was like 2 schools who wanted mandatory scheduling. Last year, there's 10, I think, that raised their hands. So it's becoming more popular, more needed with the ADs. So it'll be taken a closer look at here in the future. Some of the schools are already part of smaller conferences within the OVAC, so to speak, sub-conferences like the Buckeye 8. It's not affiliated with the OVAC, but those schools are OVAC members. They kind of form their own little thing for scheduling purposes. Right. So you see that happen, but it just seems to me, I love the rivalries nature of things. I love when you see, a team from Wheeling going against a team from Belmont County. If it's a Park versus St. Clairsville or whatever it may be. I just think it's fun for the Valley, and a lot of these kids, play against each other in the summer and things like that. And to see it happen during the season is a lot of fun. It is, and there's nothing better than a friendly rivalry, obviously. And there's a lot of good ones in the Valley, and it's the lifeblood. Sports are the lifeblood of the Valley, and we're trying to do everything we can to keep it going. The OVAC's been around since 1943, so we're in our 77th year, and my goal is to keep it going while I'm at this tenure, and to keep the good championships that we've been providing, expand that, and then participation. You know, come up with some creative ways, some draw interest so that students want to become student athletes more across the valley.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue talking with Dirk Decoy about all things OVAC. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Tractor trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Hi, Banks did great today. He looks great after his spa day.
For being such a good boy, we'll take these two.
Great.
Thanks to my free Kasasa cashback checking account from Belmont Savings Bank, my Kasasa cash is paying for my dog's treats.
Kasasa pays you cash back on everyday debit card purchases, plus refunds on ATM withdrawal fees nationwide. Open your account today at Belmont Savings Bank to take back banking and enjoy monthly cash rewards with Kasasa.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest this week, Dirk Decoy, who's the executive director of the OVAC, which is the Ohio Valley Athletic Conference, the conference of high schools for athletic purposes here in the Valley. And, you know, a lot of the conference championships are coming up in the next month or so, big time of the year for the OVAC with the Winter Sports Championships.
Yes, yeah, busy part of the year. We start off tomorrow night with the 67th annual OVAC Ron Mock Wrestling Tournament. That has 44 schools in it, 441 wrestlers, and 207 matches that will go on for the next 3 days. We have marquee matchups, which we've been doing as we did this last couple years, a marquee matchup, which is our 152-pound weight class. So our championship round, we will start the 160-pound weight class and go 160, 170, and work our way around to the 152. So the last three, the 138, 145, and 152, we feel are going to be some marquee matchups. So those will be the main events at the very end of the day.
That'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the basketball championships that are held on consecutive weekends out of Ohio University Eastern are always big attention getters as well. And that I think one of the reasons is that produces some of those matchups that I was talking about earlier, where people want to see how's this school match up against this school that maybe they don't play in the regular season. Makes it a lot of fun.
It is, yes. Yeah, we have on February 8th, we have our girls basketball championships, and they start at 10 o'clock. And for $8, you get to watch 5 basketball championship games, 5 classes. And then the next week is February 15th. That's our boys basketball championships. And you're right, it seems like it's different teams a lot each year. We do have some teams who are streaking. They've got a nice run going, and see if they can come back and three-peat, and in fact, even more than that. So it's interesting to see that. And it brings teams from all across, you know, the 5,400 miles together, and you find out who the champion is out on the court, the way it should be.
Seems, you know, that's another championship that's coming up that kind of does a similar thing. Those cheering championships, you know, you see those girls out there. There's been some runs by some teams over the years there too, with some streaks that do very well. But you get all those cheerleaders into one building there on one day, and a lot of excitement there for those girls, their families, their schools.
It is, and it's exciting. It really is. I hadn't gone to a cheering championship until my daughter was in it, and once I went to the first one when I didn't have this job, I was hooked. You talk about athletes.
Oh yeah, they can get up there in the air. I tell you.
Oh yeah, and we're seeing more and more boys coming out for cheering and competing as well. So it's if you hadn't been to a OVAC cheering championship, I would highly suggest to go to that one, and that is on February 1st down at West Banco Arena.
You know, one of the big marquee events that I see every year with the OVAC that draws a lot of attention to the conference, et cetera, is the All-Star football game in July. Of course, and you know, so much more than just the football game. You have the McDonald's All-Star Band, you have the cheerleaders, and a lot that goes along with that. But you know, attendance has declined a little bit in recent years, and of course the population has declined a little bit too. But do you think that trend will change at some point, where you know they can start to come back up, and will that game stay the event that it's been over the years for the OVAC?
It will stay the event. you know, we like heritage, we like tradition with the OVAC. Obviously, we need to do something to up the attendance, and we've met about it several times, and we talk about the attendance. And you know, we have it broadcast on television, so that's going to keep some people at home. But we need to turn it into, as somebody said, an event. Turn it into an event. So this year is our 75th anniversary of that game. So this is our 75th. So we're doing some special things for that. And again, that's the kickoff to football season. You know, we're even before the Pro Football Hall of Fame game. We're before that. So in my mind, we're the official kickoff to football in this area here, and it's something that we love to do. And yes, we're going to see if we can spice it up a little bit. But I tell you what, all the ancillary stuff that goes on, it's on the field. That's where it's at. And to see these kids give everything they got. Because when I have the 50-year class reunion come back, the guys who played 50 years ago, boy, it still burns in them. It still burns, that competition, it still burns. So it's good to see that. So again, whatever else goes on, the fluff on the outside, it's on the game. That's what matters, is the game.
I had the pleasure of getting to coach in that game, 6-7 years ago now. And really one of the more enjoyable weeks in sports that I've spent in my lifetime. I mean, you just even spend the time up there at the college during the course of the week, getting to know some of the players from around the valley. Even as an adult, it was very enjoyable for me, I thought. So,
yes.
You know, we talked about bowling being a new sport to the OVAC. One question a sport that I hear people talk a lot about because it's starting to gain some traction here in the valley is lacrosse, and not yet an OVAC sport, but you think that could be on the horizon?
Oh yeah, very much so. Yes. All it takes is for the ADs to vote, 2/3 vote, that say, yep, we want to sponsor a lacrosse team, and then we'll have a lacrosse team in the OVAC. Bowling is just added. The next one we're looking at is girls golfing. We've had some interest with girls golfing, so we took a impromptu vote, and I think there was about 10 schools said yeah they would sponsor a girls golf team. Not quite yet enough, but once we get those numbers, then we'll have girls golf. And then if anybody wants lacrosse, we'll be more than happy to offer that.
Girls golf, real opportunity right now to get college scholarships.
Yes.
They're looking to give scholarships to female golfers. So, all right, we only have a little bit of time here left before we have to go to break. But before I let you go, your tenure's pretty new here at the OVAC. What do you look to do? What type of changes do you look to make? What's on the horizon here with you as the executive director?
Again, I want to continue the sustainability of the conference. I want to make sure it lasts for another 77 years, or under my watch, however many years that will be. Continue to offer the championships. And if a school comes, we don't go out recruiting schools. We've got 51 schools, but we don't recruit. If a school comes to us and knocks on the door, we'll give them our sales pitch. And if they want to enter, you know, the ADs have to vote, so we don't kick anybody to the curb. So I want to be open for that as well. And explore opportunities. Sponsorships and partnerships, I think is we need to take a closer look at. You know, it comes down to funding, obviously it comes down to funding, and we don't want to put all that funding on the schools. You know, our dues are only $400 per school. And then if you want to play a sport, it's $60 for your whole team to play that one sport. So we keep our costs down low. But obviously the funding, it's tough for the schools, it's tough for the conference. So for me, I need to find more partnerships and sponsorships, and I'll talk with anybody just to see what kind of opportunities might arise there. That's a win-win for the conference, the schools, and then the business.
Well, good luck to you. I appreciate you coming here on the show, and wish you nothing but the best in your position there with the OVAC.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.
We need to take a break, but when we come back, I'll be talking a little more sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. People in nursing homes are some of the most vulnerable members of our society. They're there because they can't take care of themselves. Those facilities have a duty to take care of our loved ones, and when they don't, it's important they're held accountable. We've not only collected record results against negligent nursing homes, but more importantly, we've helped so many families get the answers and closure they so badly needed.
Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we're going to start off in Morgantown, where the Wvu basketball team has been really impressive. I had a chance to go check out the team in person last Saturday against Texas Tech, who was the number 24 team in the country, and Mountaineers knocked off Texas Tech, beat TCU later this week, and then now finds itself at number 12 in the country. And so impressed with this team. I think they have all of the components you need, with the exception of maybe one, and I'll talk about that, to really make a deep run in the NCAA tournament, perhaps even win the whole daggone thing. I mean, you look at the team and, first of all, they hustle like crazy. They play great defense, one of the best defensive teams in the country, if not the best defensive team. They got two big guys inside, can rebound the basketball. They can dominate the paint. They got a guy now, I think, in Deuce McBride that can score when the game's on the line, can put it in the bucket. They're deep. You look at any given game, they're playing 12 guys, sometimes even 13. And you've got a veteran coach. The only thing that I think could hold him back is the foul shooting. I mean, Derek Culver has struggled a little bit recently with his foul shooting. The team, Bob Huggins' teams have never been great foul shooting teams, it seems. But, I really think this team has so many of the components that they can make a very deep run. They have all the things that you look for to have a good team. And, they're going to play some tough competition during the year. Of course, they've already, played Kansas, loss out there. But have to play Baylor a couple times, who's ranked number 2 in the country right now. So, it's a tough schedule getting through that Big 12 conference, especially when you have to travel so far for some of those games. But I really like the way that suits them up for playing in the NCAA tournament. So this is a team that I would think is a lot of fun to watch. Let's talk about the NFL. This Sunday, conference championship games. First at 3:05, the Tennessee Titans at the Kansas City Chiefs right here in WTRF on CBS. Who would have thought that the Titans would be in this game? They beat the 3 seed, the 1 seed. Now they're at the number 2 seed. They got that solid running game with Derrick Henry, a stingy defense, but can they keep it going without much of a passing game? I don't think they can. I mean, here's an interesting stat though. Kansas City, they score 28 a game, but they give up 31 a game. Very unusual for a 2 seed, but I just think that it's going to be the Chiefs passing game versus the Titans running game. I think Patrick Mahomes is so dynamic and has so many weapons that they win this game at home. And then at 6:40, Green Bay at San Francisco on Fox. 49ers defense only giving up 10 points a game. They have the number 2 rushing offense. The Packers don't have a very good run defense. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that can keep his team in, and I've actually picked them to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm going to kind of reverse course here. I think the 49ers win this one. It's at home, and I just think their defense is so good that I think they find a way to get this one done, setting up the Chiefs and 49ers in the Super Bowl. That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you again next time on the Jamie Bordas Show.